e te iwi no mai hara mai ki UFC on Sky, ko Ravinda Hunia tōku ingoa. Joining me in studio, UFC lightweight Dan Hooker. Kia ora e hoa.
Thank you very much.
Look, for a third week running, we've got this poster in.
We're really getting our money's worth on the old.
We're sucking this one.
On the old 308.
But look, there's no denying UFC 308 was very, very exciting. These two fights in particular, obviously. The main card was pretty good as a whole, but we'll start with these two fights. First, co-main event, Robert Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev. First, I wanted to get how you thought this fight was going to go originally, and did it stack up to your expectations?
Well, that's pretty much what we were saying leading into it, was like, can he survive the storm? You know, Khamzat brings he comes with the kitchen sink for that first kind of flurry, and if you can survive that, Usman survived the storm, Gilbert Burns survived the storm, and then you're in there and it becomes like a long, dragged out war, which probably would have lent itself towards Robert Whittaker, but he found, as Rob described it, his Achilles heel, which is his teeth. Him speaking about it this week, he said that it's like an old injury from when he was a lot younger. It was actually his teeth just snapped, not his actual jaw. His teeth snapped and separated. But yeah, he was saying that that's his Achilles heel. He's saying that Dricus hurt it in their fight, and then Khamzat just found the right on the money. He hit it. He hit the nail on the head, and he was able to catch that early. So, but very surprising for the manner in which he did that. We know that Khamzat comes off like a very strong storm, but that was impressive. That was a surprise, especially because of the amount of time off Khamzat's had, and you know, him mainly having his career against the elites of the UFC at welterweight, or all welterweights at middleweight. So it was very surprising to see him take, former champion, an elite level middleweight at the top echelon of the division, to be handled like that was very surprising. Was the game plan for Khamzat always going to be those takedowns? He's like a Khabib, like his game doesn't change depending on who his fight is. There's a lot of guys who change things stylistically, like Holloway is probably one of the best at it, where he'll adapt like a lot. He'll adapt his game depending on the opponent's weaknesses and their strengths. And a lot of fighters do. They make adjustments like that. But Khamzat is like a Khabib, whereas like you see Khabib fight number 100 in the world or number 1 in the world, he does the exact same thing. He runs over there, he grabs the guy. Like Khamzat is going to do that whether you, and it makes, I guess it makes life very, very simple and very easy. But there's obviously a lot of technique and natural ability and tenacity behind that he's like another second coming to Khabib. I think he's just a hyper aggressive, forward pressure, strong wrestler. Yeah, and the other thing about that is that there's not many fighters that look like Khamzat Chimaev in the middleweight division, or in the top 5 of the middleweight division. He definitely has that to his advantage should he be facing anyone in the top 5 right now. Yeah, well, a lot of them have moved towards that. That's always the way that it goes. Like, it always just moves and flows. Like, a generation of grapplers will come through, and then a generation of strikers come through. And this is, it's obviously the kryptonite for the division at the moment, where a lot of the top 5 or a lot of the elite level fighters in this weight class consider themselves strikers. Like Dricus, obviously can mix things up very well, but likes to strike. Rob can mix things up very well, likes to strike. Strickland likes to strike. Israel likes to strike. So the top echelon of that division is strikers. So I feel like Khamzat coming through is their kryptonite, and he looks to me like he's jumped the line. Like he's jumped with a performance like that, with such an impressive performance like that. It looks to me like he's jumped the queue. They might still do the. I have a feeling they might still do the Dricus and Strickland, because we're not so sure Khamzat can travel to the US at the moment. You know, he says he can, but proof's in the pudding, mate. We haven't seen your feet on American soil in a while, so they'll probably do Strickland, Dricus, get that out of the way, and then Khamzat will fight the winner of that the next time that the show comes to Saudi Arabia or the UAE. Yeah. Well, he mentioned post-fight that he is possibly on his way to Australia, and that he was up for training with Robert Whittaker.
Yeah, still, if Rob open for that, of course I want to train with that guy, so I'm going for Australia soon, so hopefully, but right now his chin is bad, so I hope soon he gets back and maybe we can work together as well, so I can learn a lot of things. He's a great guy, a great champion, so one of the best guys in this game.
I was a bit confused by that.
I would like to see it.
Yeah, me too. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or is it a little stir the pot situation where, or am I, like?
yeah. Well, he's come out and he's just said like very vocal that he is able to travel and he is able to get over to these different places and fight in the United States and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll see. Okay,
so now with Hamzat, as you say, jumping the queue and looking like he's next in line for perhaps a title shot. Israel Adesanya is still in the mix as well. Of course, there are those talks you mentioned, Dricus du Plessis, Sean Strickland, but is this an opportunity perhaps with Hamzat talking about a trip down to Australia that Israel Adesanya would get a chance against Hamzat?
Yeah, it definitely could be. Like from what we hear in the middleweight title picture is am I allowed to say that? Nah. This is not. No one's told me this. This is just my inkling that, and from what I've heard, and from what past has shown us, that Australia is a big place for the middleweight title picture. Like there's a lot. We've had Romero, Rockhold. Like there's been a lot of middleweight title fights down in Australia. It's just the way that the system's kind of built up. So, going by history, we might see a middleweight title picture, whether that be Dricus and Strickland in Sydney for that event in February. That's probably why Hamzat's alluding to coming down and stealing that spot, stealing Sean Strickland's spot, which would be that would 100% be the possibility if he is able to get in.
If they'll let him through customs, that would be sweet.
Goes without saying that he'd be the next in line, because our sport is recency bias is the strongest tool that we have in our sport. Like you give it a couple of months or someone else does something more impressive, then we move on.
Hamzat came into this fight looking, really sharp, ready, all these sorts of things. People always, kind of doubting him. Is he going to make weight? Is he going to be in shape? Can he get through 5 rounds? He didn't have to do that. But he looked in incredible shape, obviously. What do you think that time off has kind of done for him? He's since had a child, gotten married, and has come back looking $1 million at the top of the middleweight division.
Yeah, well, Darren Till was kind of alluding to it on, I think he spoke to Errol Hawani, that Hamzat was having a lot of problems and losses in his private life, which we don't really see. And at the time, he was kind of moving around training. I saw that he was training in Dubai, moving around. It's obviously very difficult to travel and keep your diet in check and have like a steady training program. And he was moving around between Dubai and then Sweden in his home gym. Whereas for this camp, he moved into the mountains of Kazakhstan. He got his team together and they really just locked in and hunkered down, and he was just really able to focus. So I guess that's really the key to the success in this fight, was really having that solid base location, which he now says will be the UAE. Yeah. Which means that his training camps will now be set up in the UAE. And just having that home base and that training regime every single day and having a group of people around you that set you in the right direction, look what happens.
Absolutely, yeah. So well done for Chimaev, but the rest will be revealed, I guess. I'm guessing we'll see movement definitely by the new year. In the cases of the middleweights, that main event between Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway, I think a lot of people were surprised and a lot of people perhaps were not at the result there. But I personally had my heart set on Max Holloway. I'm a big Max Holloway fan. I know a lot of people are. But what were your thoughts on this fight? Because I thought, well played by Ilia Topuria.
Oh, it was an incredible contest. While it lasted, that was definitely my favourite fight of the night. In terms of back and forth, they were both, Ilia did an incredible job, man. He gets his low kick there, gets on that front leg on that calf kick, setting up his right hand. Obviously, he had Max pulling back from his right hand, which opened up the back door for the left hook to sneak in. And Max Holloway has this everyone says his granite chin and he can't, he's never been dropped. But we all know, like, every real fighter knows that that's a complete fallacy. A good chin, like people say, I have a good chin. There's no such thing as a good chin. I wouldn't stick my chin in the air right now and let you hit me on the chin. What is that like? There's people that get hit in the chin. There's people that don't get hit in the chin. Everyone that gets hit in the chin, it's anatomy, mate. It's physics. It's just how your body works. Yeah. Is that if you get the right amount of pressure, and it's not much. Like once you actually clip someone with a knockout shot, and you're like, oh, I didn't really punch that hard. It's because it comes down to that sort of physics. It's just Max being very good at protecting his chin and being a very defensive fighter. He's very defensively responsible, and he has some of the best shoulders defensively in the game. But yeah. Ilya found that spot.
Yeah, he sure did. At the beginning of the fight, you could see Max Holloway obviously has the range advantage, and he was using that to his benefit. In the earlier stages, it felt like that kept creeping a little bit closer and closer, and then Ilya goes for a shot in the first round. Were you surprised to see that by him?
No, it's like you can't only have, like, he's a very good defensive wrestler. Like, we only mainly see his defensive wrestling, but that's because of the type of opponent that we see him up against, like Bryce Mitchell. He was fought against like these top elite level grapplers. Ryan Hall, he made look like a clown. These are some of the best grapplers in the world. So of course, why would he take them down? He wants to keep it on the feet and strike with these boys. So he uses his his wrestling defensively. But you can't have one without the other. Like you can't be the world's most incredible defensive wrestler and then have no offensive wrestling. Like it's two sides of the same coin. Like offense and defense, like they'll work together. And from his defensive wrestling throughout his UFC history, throughout his UFC career up until this point, incredible. Some of the best defensive wrestling that I've seen. So to see his offensive wrestling come into play against Max, who's also an incredible defensive wrestler, was it's a sight to see. It's like him saying after the fight that he wants to take down and submit. He wants to submit Islam. Yeah, like he's now, he's sky's the limit for this kid.
Absolutely. And it felt like during fight week, he was manifesting all of this. He said, I'm going to do this. At the beginning of the fight, Max wasn't having it, doing the, the bullfighting thing. And I thought that was pretty, entertaining. But, Ilya had this thing about him during the week where he said, I'm going to knock him out. And I felt like he didn't talk himself into it because he obviously has full belief, but I know City Kickboxing used that word manifesting a lot, but it feels
don't bring me into the manifesting thing. I feel like if you believe in manifesting, you have to go up to a homeless person and explain what manifesting is to a homeless person with a straight face.
This is true.
You have to look them in the eye and explain what manifesting is. I do not.
Maybe they do need.
Hey, he's a kid. He's undefeated. Yeah. He's got a. I know from experience, because I've had a lot of losses in my career, that you don't have to feel like Superman the whole time. You just have to feel like you're invincible or unbeatable for 15 minutes or for 25 minutes. Like anyone can do that. It's like you don't have to feel he's just hasn't been defeated. He obviously he carries that a lot more naturally just because of his success inside of the octagon. But I know that I just have to build that up towards a fight. And you could ask me 5 minutes before the fight, you think I'll win? I'm going, nah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But if you ask me when I step foot inside of that octagon, unbeatable. I cannot be beaten. So you only have to feel that invincibility for such a short space of time. But Ilya, obviously, he's got all his things in the right place, and his mentality, his training, his coaches, incredible. Like there's no reason for him to change anything that he's doing. Yeah, absolutely. He's proven that now. He's now defeated two greats in the featherweight division, Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, which is, very, very commendable. And on that subject of Volkanovski, we saw him walk into the octagon afterwards, and Ilya say, without Volkanovski having to say anything at all, that you deserve a rematch shot and that he would be the next fight for him. Your thoughts on that? Yeah, I felt like, I obviously hang out with Volk side. Yeah, give it to him. Like, word on the street was that like they were going to give, like they just told Volk to wait and you'll get the next title shot. But I've heard them say a lot of things and then kind of change their mind. So I was still like interested to see how it all played out. But obviously Volkanovski walk into the cage, obviously very respectful to each other. Ilya then saying, yeah, all right, like you can have the next shot. Dana White at the post-fight press conference then say that, oh, I'm not going to say no to Volkanovski. Like that's not someone we're going to say no to, because he's a guy that stepped up to the plate whenever we needed him. Whenever we gave Volkanovski the call, hey, we need someone to fight Islam on a week's notice, Volk straight on a plane and he's off to the UAE. So he's, you know, the only losses that we've seen in his career is for him taking these huge risks, you know. So the company obviously just wants to reward him by not dicking him around with some contender fight and just slide him straight into the title fight, which is great to see.
I mean, just thinking about that, you know, predicting, where do you see kind of, not perhaps holes or areas where you could capitalise against a fighter like Ilia Topuria from what you've seen of him so far?
Oh, it's very easy to
it's tough.
to say from the outside, just do what you do but better. Like that's it's everything. It's going to take a complete fighter to pick apart Ilia like that. He's just he like he was saying, it's this new generation of MMA fighters that went around. Like he's been doing it MMA since he was like 15 years old. You know what I mean? Like he's a complete fighter. He's jiu-jitsu black belt, incredible wrestler, offensively, defensively, great boxer, can move every which way. Like he's a complete fighter, and it's what we're getting with this new generation. Like the guys of my generation, like we played rugby when we were
MMA, what?
Yeah, we were 15, no idea. You know, I was kind of the first and fell into it, into MMA at quite a young age. But a lot don't. But these kids coming up now are crazy strikers, incredible jiu-jitsu. Like they're in jiu-jitsu tournaments, having kickboxing fights. And they're like 14 years old, and they're like, "Yeah, I've been training for 7 years." I'm going like, "What?"
Me too.
Yeah, what? Actually. So it's just like he's saying, this next generation of complete fighters. But time and the generation after that, you want to see how to beat Ilia Topuria, time gets all men.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true. So in the case of Max Holloway, he's come out, obviously said that he wants to jump into your division.
I mean, Robin, sit down with the team, relax. There's nothing needed to be rushing back right now, you know. Probably try to come back summer. Big July card, right? In Vegas, do something. We'll see what happens. I mean, 55 looks really good right now.
Now, we saw him jump into the lightweight rankings before this fight, and he pushed you out of the top 5, unfortunately, which we here at Sky, we're not quite happy about. We got you back. But you know, when I saw that happen before this fight had even happened, I thought, okay, what are they trying to tee up?
They always do that. They're always like leading into like big fights. You'll see guys like shift up because it kind of looks sort of. I think they would have known, you know, because obviously Holloway had such great success. I didn't think it made sense anyway that they put him at number 9 and he just knocked out the number 1 contender. I didn't think that made much sense anyway. So to see him move up into the top 5, like no arguments from me, champ. But obviously he had such success in the lightweight division with his big BMF title win over Justin Gaethje. And maybe he had been in the UFC's ear and saying like, once I get this final belt, I want to fight for the lightweight title. So it just would have made a lot more sense to have the champion fight the number 4 and number 5 in the division rather than champion Islam fight number 9, like it would have looked bad on paper.
We both attended an event on Friday night. The Stealth Fighters League made their debut, and we were lucky enough to, like I mentioned, we were there in the house as well, and we caught up with a couple of local fight heroes, and we got a really good look to what happened inside the cage that night. Take a look.
On the same kick, top dog, I'm A-list.
debut tonight. What have you made of the card so far?
Yeah, it's awesome. We have a few guys from the gym fighting tonight, so obviously I came here to support them. And yeah, that's the first time they do a show here, and that's amazing. So yeah.
Navajo, we're here at the SFL. What have you made of the card so far?
Yeah, it's good. This is a good venue. I think Stealth's running a really well put together event here, and everywhere, all the heavy hitters are out. Everyone's looking all like well dressed up, and yeah, it's quite nice.
What do cards like this provide for upcoming fighters?
That's a perfect platform for them to make it to the big shows. We need shows like that in the country to be able to show the world what we are capable of. And yes, that's very well organized. So that's what fighters need to be able to make it to UFC eventually.
Last time we were here, we were watching you. You got your win here before you got picked up for the UFC. So anything can happen on these cards.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it just goes to show, because all of our other guys are like right there with me. We're inches away, we're inches away, and that's why we're happy to have more fights like Stealth coming into the New Zealand scene for everyone to get more experience. And with a well put together event like this, I know we're gonna get our shots.
How have preparations been going so far ahead of your UFC debut?
Yes, deep in camp at the moment. Everything's like all firing. Just working through like some niggles. Finally, all done, and yeah, I can just punch in. No more distractions, and just go hard.
I know that there's a card that's been announced for Sydney. Could we perhaps see you slip in there, perhaps?
Most likely. I know I'm doing my best to be on the cards. That's in just about 3 months now. I'm back to training, full-time training now. No injuries and nothing, so I need to correct the wrong from my last fight. And what a better way to do it in Sydney. Same spot than I've had my UFC debut last year. So yeah, I think I will be on the cards, and I'm looking forward to be fighting in front of the Anzac fans.
A legend of New Zealand combat sport, Ray Sefort. Ray, first of all, welcome back home. How does it feel to be back on home turf?
You know, I did not expect to come to this, but man, it just feels like I've never left. No, seriously, like just to see so many familiar faces, to see the growth of the sport, but also to see people like Izzy and Kith and everybody else that's here supporting it. You know what I mean? It's so awesome to see like the actual community, everybody rally together and to be able to do this and then see it grow here. It just warms my heart. So I'm super, super happy I'm here today.
You just watched a heavyweight fight who, you went and acknowledged as well. What were your thoughts on watching that fight?
That kid is super talented. He just needs a little bit of guidance. But Izzy came up to me and he goes, that's like you and Mark Hunt. And so I went up to the kid and I'm like, how old are you? He says he's 20. I'm like, go get changed. I want to get your number. You and I need to talk. So that's so awesome to see. That New Zealand continues to produce all these young talent. It's awesome. Like, I'm just buzzing right now.
Look, if there's any message you could give to other aspiring New Zealand, Samoan, Maori, Pasifika fighters, what would that advice be?
Follow your dream and dream big, because that's exactly what I did. And don't worry about the naysayers, because once you're up there, the naysayers will understand why you keep going. So believe in yourself, put in the hard work, and make sure you have discipline and consistency in your life, because that's the only way you're going to succeed and continue to move forward.
Well, thank you again to the Stealth Fighters League whānau and Dan. As always, thank you so much for joining me.
That's a wrap.
That is a wrap. And whānau, you can catch this card, UFC Fight Night, this Sunday with Albazi versus Moreno, Erin Blanchfield up against Rose Namajunas, the Battle of the Flyweights on Sunday, 2 p.m. on ESPN. Don't miss it. Hei kōna mai.